Good morning, everybody. Chubby Retro back again with another EGM magazine. Today we're going to be actually looking at a magazine that I mentioned a couple videos ago. This is the actual 100th issue of EGM. This was a celebration, obviously, of the 100 issues, but also they ranked, I believe, the top 100 games. Excuse me. And so wanted to take a look at it. This one is in really good condition. I must have taken very good care of it. As you can see, it's from November 1997. Original price was $499. Like I said, issue 100. And it has this really cool, and I think they provided a poster that I think was already like pulled out, so I didn't have to like tear it out of the magazine. But as you can see, it has this nice pull-out cover here that has the top 100 games, their characters, and it's really cool. As you can see, Mario, Crash, obviously, Pac-Man, Mega Man, Donkey Kong, and Q*bert, Parappa, Raiden, Batman, Star Fox. So it's really cool artwork. In the back is going to be an ad for Enemy Zero by Sega. So let's take a look. The top of the magazine, it has Nintendo 64, PlayStation, Saturn, Super NES, Genesis, and Arcade. And on the inside, when you pull out the little poster there, you have an ad for Final Fantasy VII, which was a little game that came out for the PlayStation. You may have heard of it. And so as we move forward, of course, the redundancy of this magazine, of doing these videos, is that you have a lot of the same ads for the same games when you're looking at a similar time period. So what I'm going to try to do is kind of just briefly go over those, not go over every single ad, but just kind of, glance over ones that we've addressed in the past. So of course you have the editorial, NHL. You have a really cool 2-page ad for Castlevania for PlayStation. And as you can see here down in the corner, in case you don't know your video game history and you wanted to kind of have a glossary of which character was which, down here it has a little glossary of the characters that are on the front cover. And so, yeah, I remember when I got this issue, I subscribed. Yeah, I'd say I subscribed to EGM mostly. I did buy a few in the stores, but I subscribed, and I remember when I got this one in the mail, they came in a poly bag, and I was excited because it was a really cool cover, and it was exciting to see, first of all, the anniversary of EGM, but also their top, their list of the top 100 games. I thought that was something that was exciting. So here is a little article talking about Sega's comeback. I don't know, let's see, 97, Saturn was out, so are they talking about obviously maybe the development of the Dreamcast, which should have been their comeback. It's a really good system. I was always a big fan of theirs, and of course N64 games delayed again. That's something that I used to hate as a kid, because you get excited about a game and then it would get delayed, and then you're like, holy moly, I wanted that game, I was expecting that game, and now look at it. It's kind of like what we're all feeling right now with Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, that game has been in development forever. And it's funny because I've seen like little memes that predict like, okay, well, when is Grand Theft Auto 7, 8? And it goes up to like the year 22, 24 or whatever. And it's like, that's probably going to be the time frame for future releases when you get to Grand Theft Auto 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Of course, this fighting game that I was not a big fan of, and I don't think a lot of people were. I had high hopes for that game, but it just never panned out. And then we have here, we have the San Francisco Rush preview, and then an ad for the sequel to one of the funnest hockey games ever. And then you have, so these are all games that were coming out for the system, for the Nintendo 64. There was anticipation for these games. Like I mentioned, Bomberman 64 was my first foray into Bomberman. I don't know why I skipped it beforehand, but when we got that, I quite enjoyed it. It was fun. Mischief Makers I didn't have, but that was a really fun game as well. And then, of course, you know my feelings about Diddy Kong Racing, F-Zero. Speaking of Diddy Kong, here's a nice 2-page ad. Yeah, that game is top-notch. I wish that they would develop a sequel to it. I think they can do a lot of stuff with it. I wonder why, though. I wonder why they don't do it. I'm sure, well, I mean, Microsoft is open to everything nowadays. I mean, they're going to be putting their games on Switch and PlayStation. Why could they not allow Rare to develop a game with a license like Diddy Kong for the Switch? I think they could. I think that'd be a huge hit. So just some basketball ads, Sonic R, which was a Mario Kart clone. And then we have some Saturn previews. I was never a fan of the Saturn. I was a fan of PlayStation. I didn't have one when they first came out. I wanted one. Let's see here. This is a 4-page ad for Nightmare Creatures. So, I mean, you have 4 pages here. Let me move this camera a bit. See? Yeah, so a 4-page ad for a game that I don't think I ever played that game. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Saturn. PlayStation was intriguing to me. But the Saturn, the few times that I remember trying it, the one thing that was probably a dumb reason not to like it, but the controller. The controller felt so tinny, so plasticky. It felt light. It felt like there was nothing inside of it, and that really bothered me. And I just didn't like it. I don't know, something about it. I did not. The PlayStation controller now, the original one, now if you hold it, it feels like it's lacking because obviously it didn't have the dual sticks, but it feels similar. But the Saturn controller, I just did not like the shape. It kind of had sharper edges. It wasn't rounded. And I think they ended up changing it later on. Here's a PlayStation preview of Resident Evil 2. Riven, which was a sequel to Myst. I don't know if anybody ever played Myst. The pre-rendered graphics were cool when you would watch it, you know, when you're playing it on your computer. But it was just so slow. And I know it was kind of a puzzle type of game, but it was just so slow paced, but it was popular as heck. It sold a lot, and so did the sequel Riven. Here's the TV, Mega Man Neo, Cool Borders, Clock Tower. So I want to get to the article of the top 100 games. Like I mentioned, a lot of these we've already, a lot of these games and ads we've already seen multiple times because we're in 1997 and we've done quite a few editions of that. And so Duke Nukem, In the Zone, Batman and Robin, Intelligent Cube, Bug Riders, Pitfall 3D. So I don't know what's going on with my zoom today. It seems like it's overly zoomed in, but yeah, I don't know what. Maybe it's just me. I mean, it's cutting off a very small bottom of it. The top is okay, but you know, this game, like I mentioned in the past, I wonder why they don't bring back 3D Street Fighter. And of course, now they're Video Game Spot Online. So now we were moving into the website and online era. And I don't want to pull these out too much and mess up the glue in the middle just because it's so old. But anyway, okay, so now we're here at the 100 best games, and what are your guys' picks? Let's kind of go through this and kind of go back in time. So as you can see, they have a list starting with the number 100 is Qix. Is that how you say it? Qix. I'm not too familiar with that game. That was an NES game that I didn't play. But let's see, Samurai Showdown, Virtual Cop, Wipeout, MLB 98. I'm not going to go through every single game. Okay, so Saturn Decathlete. Is that number 95? Is that a game that was that good for it to rank in the top 100? Interesting. I mean, it must have been. An Olympic game sleeper hit that took gamers by storm. Choose between 5 players and compete in 10 events. Interesting. I never heard of that game, but it must have been good. It must have been good. Usually those Olympic games are kind of throwaways. They just make them to capitalize on the Olympics. But yeah, that's interesting. Then we jump to number 93, which was Blast Cores. Use an assortment of whacked out Tonka trucks and other vehicles to clear a path for a runaway new calling truck. Now this is a game, I'd say it fits in the top 100, number 93. In the grand scheme of things, I'd say it probably is positioned where it should be, around where it should be. That was a sleeper game that came out for the Nintendo 64, and it was surprisingly fun and interesting. You didn't think that idea of just driving a Tonka truck around would actually be enthralling, but it was, and it was challenging. It got harder. There was times where the bomb is like going faster, and you're having to knock down these buildings and having to do these cool little turns where you slide into the building to knock down the walls and stuff. Really fun game. I think it still holds up today. So yeah, I think that's right. Blast Corps number 93. Flashback, we played only on our PC, our Macintosh when it first came out. So I have little history with that game. So I can't say if it belongs at 92, but maybe it does. I know it's a side scroller. Axley, Panzer Dragoon Zui, Mrs. Pac-Man, Ninja Gaiden, Baseball Stars for Nintendo. Here's some Street Fighter Alpha like collectible cards that I did not tear out. They're really loose, so they feel like they want to just fall out. Let's see here. Galactic Attack, Bonk's Adventure, Kirby's Avalanche, and Revenge of Shinobi. Interesting. If you look at the top here, it says top 10 worst games of all time. Let's see here. Number 1. Well, let's go number 10. Shack Food, number 10. Rap Jam is number 9. Friday the 13th, number 8. Bubsy 3D. Club Drive. Total Recall. Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Shadow War of Successions. Number 2 is the Make Your Own Video Game series. And number 1 is the 90% of the Atari 2600 games released in 83 and 84. So bad, they crashed the industry. Yeah, some of those early Atari games are kind of hard to play, but I mean, for the time, I'm sure people were excited about them. 82, Jumping Flash, Sega Rally Championship, Legendary Axe, Virtual Fighter 2, and Mega Man X4 to get into the 70s. I thought this was a cool gun for the PlayStation for Time Crisis. Blazing Lasers, ActRaiser, Life Force. I'm only going to talk about games that I'm familiar with. I'm not going to kind of critique the ones that I don't know, because I don't know, I never played them. Worldwide Soccer, Mega Man 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Zelda 2. I kind of feel like 73 to 71 maybe should be higher on the list, or closer to maybe the 20s. But, I mean, there's a reason. There's a lot of games. Number 70 was Knights. I like that game. I like that they created their new controller for that game specifically. That's when they released their analog controller for the Saturn. That was a better controller. But let's see, Snatcher, Wave Race 64, race fancy Kawasaki jet skis in diverse and obstacle-laden water courses, or wreck them in just as many stunt courses. Fun game. Once again, a game, an IP that nobody knew about. When they released it, it was just like, okay, it seems interesting. The graphics look cool, polygonal. Water looks really realistic. The dolphin swimming through the water looks really realistic. So let's give it a shot. And it ended up being a really, really fun game. One of those games that I like, games that you can pick up and just play for 15, 20 minutes if that's all you have, and then you can put it down and go do something else. You know, if you have to leave or whatever, there's certain games that you have to put on and you're like, I have to sit down for at least an hour or two to actually accomplish something. But every now and then it's good to have a game that you can just put on, play it for 20, 30 minutes and then turn it off, and it's, you know, satisfying. This was one of those games. Tony Hawk is one of those games. So yeah, 68 I'd say is about right. And I know a lot of you guys are probably looking, saying, hey, this guy's skipping a lot of, especially Sega games. Yeah, I was and continue to be a Nintendo fanboy. So that was my experience as a kid. Guardian Heroes, Tecmo Super Bowl, interesting. Twisted Metal 2, that was a good game. Return Fire, Phantasy Star, that was a good game as well. An ad for Mega Man. So let's go to, now we're in the 60s. Now we're at NHL Hockey, Shining Force 2, Thunder Force 3, and Dragon Warrior 5. I have no experience with any of those games, so I don't want to critique, but I mean, I've heard of Shining Force. A 2-page ad here for Youngblood, Search and Destroy. So now we're in the 50s. Now we're at 57 is Castlevania 3. Yeah, I'd say that belongs there. 56, Super Punch Out, I'd agree. Dragon Force, 55. Tomb Raider, I would agree at 54. Gate of Thunder. If we did a top 100 list right now, where would you guys put Red Dead Redemption 2 or Part 1? Where would you guys put the God of War series? Where would you put The Last of Us? It'd be interesting now because there was a lot of good games. 52, RC Pro-Am, Tekken 2, Devil's Crush, Mario Kart 64, Military Madness, Ghouls and Ghosts, Contra, and Space Megaforce. Yeah. Mario Kart 64 at 49. Maybe a tad bit high. Maybe. RC Pro-Am, yeah, 52. I mean, that makes sense. That was it kind of introduced the type of racing that became quite popular. 44 is the original Metroid. 43, Herzog Zwei. 42 is Strider, and Arkanoid at 41. Mesa Dark Age, had a lot of expectations for that game. Bushido Blade. All right, Lunar Eternal Blue, which is a Saturn game, or a Sega CD game, I'm sorry. Star Fox 64, number 39, yeah. Wise Book 1 and 2, I'm not familiar with that game, at 38. 37, Super Mario Brothers All-Star Edition. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, no, I'm sorry. I'm reading that wrong. I was thinking that it was the Super Mario remastered cartridge with all the games, but this is talking about just Super Mario Brothers at 37. And they're also putting the All-Stars edition as well. So, but this is the first Mario game. I think it's low. I mean, think of it. I mean, Super Mario Brothers, when the Nintendo came out, revitalized the gaming industry, brought some excitement to the gaming industry, and for it to be For it to be 37 is, to me, seems kind of low. Yeah, I think that's low. I think it's too low, in my humble opinion. Street Fighter Alpha 2, Metal Gear, Kid Icarus at number 34. I don't disagree with any of those. Critical Depth. Now, I'm going through this, giving my brief opinion. I don't want to make this an hour-long video by just talking about every single title and my opinion and all that. So let's just make this brief. NBA Live 97 at 33. It's interesting that they would put annual games on this list. And then you have Bionic Commando, and then you have 31 NFL Game Day. 30 is Phantasy Star, 29 is Chrono Trigger, 28 Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, 27 Gunstar Heroes, and 26 Mario RPG. I mean, I'd say those are about right. No complaints with those. Okay, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. Now we're in the top 25. GoldenEye 007. Number 25. Yeah. Top 25 I think is good. International Superstar Soccer, that was a really, really good soccer game, but is it better than GoldenEye? I don't think so. I think you'd have to maybe even swap them. R-Type 3, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Final Fantasy 7, 21. I mean, yeah. Super Castlevania 20. See, once again, 19, Madden NFL 98. I mean, I don't know if you should be putting annual video games, even though maybe it was a good version of that. But I don't think you should be putting annual sports games in the top 100 list. That's my issue. 18, F-Zero. Sonic CD, Tetris Attack, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario Brothers 2, ahead of Super Mario Brothers 1. I don't know about that. I mean, I think 1 is better, no? Am I wrong, guys? Leave a comment in the comment section. I would think Mario 1 is superior to Mario 2. It's almost like they didn't try for Mario 2. They just reskinned a game. Interesting. Quarterback Club 98. Number 13 is The Legend of Zelda. 12 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Okay. Super Mario World at 11. Okay. Saturn Bomberman. I didn't play that version, so I can't say anything. So now we're in the top 10. Final Fantasy 3. Contra 3, okay. Super Mario World 2, okay, that makes sense. Pull-out poster of Lara Croft. I never tore that one out. Super Metroid at number 6. Street Fighter 2. Hyper Fighting at number 5. Super Mario 64 at number 4. Number 3 is going to be Legends of Zelda: Link to the Past. Number 2 is Super Mario Brothers 3. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you put Mario Brothers 1, you put that as number 2 position. You put Super Mario Brothers 3 in the Super Mario Brothers 2 position, and then you put Super Mario Brothers 2 in the original Mario position, if that makes sense. So just swap them around. And let's see, what is the number 1 game based on EGM in the year 1997? Kart World Series. No. Tetris. Interesting. I mean, it was a phenomenon it did ship with every Game Boy. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's still a fun game. It's a game that a lot of people have access to. I mean, even like on these keychains. I mean, on your phone nowadays, you have Tetris, you know, very easily. So for that reason, yes, it's good. But I don't know if I would say it's the #1 game of all time. That's why I say now, if you put this list out, I mean, is Tetris anywhere near the top 10? If you're just talking about overall top games. I didn't remember that this was the #1 game. I'm a bit torn. I don't know. I mean, I see, but I don't see. So interesting. So go ahead and leave a comment. What would be your #1 game right now, based on, you know, the games that are out or have been out? How would you change that list? Which game would you put #1? I always like this ad. I always liked this game. I never got either one of them. I know they're really valuable now, but I like that the play on Mortal Kombat. It's pretty cool. These are just some profiles of some of the editors. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. And reviewers. Test Drive 4. I remember looking at this article, and it was showing behind the scenes of how it was working at EGM. And I just thought, like, dude, that's a fantastic career to be able to play video games. And I wonder if any of these guys are still in the business. I mean, I'm sure they probably are. But it'd be cool to find out where they're at. I wonder if any of these guys watch my my videos. I mean, just I remember like all those editions of magazines, all the games they must have had access to. Interesting. I would still do that job. G Police. The 5 sleeper hits of the holiday. Colony Wars. Treasures of the Deep. 1. Parappa the Rapper. Enemy 0. Red Asphalt. So Madden 64 got 9s and 8s. Saturn Bomberman 9.5 and 9. Resident Evil for the Saturn got 8, 8.5, 9, and 6.5. Marvel Superheroes, Madden 98, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Croc. Never played this game. Well, I did try it. That's a lie. We did rent it one time. Mega Man, Nuclear Strike, G Police, Excalibur, Marvel Superheroes, NASCAR 98. Maximum Force, Jimmy Johnson VR Football, Tecmo Stackers, Steel Rain, Time Crisis, Treasures of the Deep, and then some also like collectible cards, or you know, that you could tear out for Ace Combat, Tekken 2, Time Crisis, and Treasures of the Deep, and then some for that were other postcards, some that are the magazine covers, and some games. And then they did reviews of some accessories, the scuba visor, GunCon light gun, and the glove. As you can see, once again, like I mentioned, they had some weird accessories back in the day that, thank God, I didn't buy. Let's look at the top 5 overall for November 1997. #1 is Saturn Bomberman. #2 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. #3 is Final Fantasy VII. #4 is GoldenEye. And #5 is Madden NFL 98. San Francisco Rush. Some, let's see, strategies for Nightmare Creatures. An ad for Gex or Jex. Tomb Raider 2. Some tricks. Warcraft 2, The Dark Saga, Carnage Heart. GoldenEye, Street Fighter EX Alpha. NBA Hang Time. Ace Combat. 100 top tricks of all time. So if you guys want to, I'll stretch this out here. If you guys want to pause it, you guys can check out any tricks for, I mean, Afterburner, Aladdin, Bloody Wolf, Blazing Lasers, Adventure Island 2, Return Fire, Super Star Wars, SimCity, Wonder Boy, Wing Commander, MDK ad, a really cool Star Wars Hasbro toy, an AT-AT, surround sound, MTV, Extreme G, one of my favorite racing games on the Nintendo 64, Dark Rift, I remember we rented that. I didn't like it. December 97, I think we've already looked at that issue. Virtual Pets, remember the Virtual Pets, guys? Tamagotchi, I didn't have one, but my sisters did. So you can get different ones. Virtual Kid. I had two, not virtual kids, real kids, and they're quite expensive, so it's cheaper to get a Tamagotchi. Some ads. Yeah, see, this is the controller I was talking about. This controller, it had a little bit sharper edges, and it felt so light and so cheap. So did this one, but it wasn't as bad. But this one, I did not like that controller. Some anime, Game Shark, and that's it. So once again, thank you guys for checking out this video. Like, subscribe, and comment. And we will catch you on the next one.